In this lesson, we're going to look at 15 words that students very often get wrong. This lesson is especially helpful for beginners, pre-intermediate and intermediate students of English, but even if you are more advanced, you should check that you can pronounce the words in this video correctly, because even upper intermediate and advanced students sometimes make mistakes pronouncing them. We'll first practice these words in isolation, and I'm going to give you tips on how to say them, and then we'll put them into sentences and practice them in a little story. So, without further ado, let's deal with our first word. Now this is a really tricky one because you see the letters AW at the end of this word. Many students instinctively want to pronounce this ending as O, but in English, words that finish in AW are pronounced with a long O sound. So we're not saying O, rounding our lips, we're actually saying O. O. Pay attention to how my lips are shaped. O. You can apply this rule to almost any word that finishes in AW in English. For example, saw. This is another tricky word, and a lot of students pronounce this irregular verb as so. But if you say so, you're actually saying this, or this, or even this. So it's definitely worth practicing saying the long O when there is an AW ending there. Saw. And the same thing will happen in the word lawyer. So again, lots of students find it difficult to pronounce, but if you remember that all you need to do is pronounce the first syllable with a long O sound, it's going to be easier to say. Lawyer, lawyer. Now you might be wondering about how I pronounce the ending, but as I said in my previous videos, because my accent is British, I don't actually pronounce the letter R in endings like these. This is characteristic of the British accent. However, if you want to develop a really nice international English accent, you should definitely say the letter R. So while I say lawyer without pronouncing the R, you should definitely say lawyer, pronouncing the R. The only thing you have to remember here is not to pronounce the letter R as R with your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth. The English R sound is different because your tongue curls back and it doesn't touch the roof of your mouth. R, lawyer, lawyer. Let's move on to our next word. Now this is another tricky one, and a lot of students don't really know how to say it. So listen and repeat. Appear, appear. The second syllable of that word is pronounced as peer, peer, appear. You're going to apply this pronunciation to any word that's built on this verb. So we will say appearing, appearance, and appeared. Now the next word on our list is one of the most mispronounced adjectives by students of English. We pronounce it as dangerous. Dangerous. There are two things you need to be paying attention to here. First of all, remember that the A in the first syllable here is pronounced, well, as A, just as the first letter in the English alphabet. Dane, Dane. And then the ending O-U-S sounds like S. Again, very similar to the letter S in the English alphabet. It's a little bit shorter, but really a tiny bit shorter. S. Dangerous. Dangerous. You can apply that rule of pronouncing the OUS ending to any English adjective that ends in OUS. Now our next word is very basic, but students don't often know how to say it. The problem, of course, is the spelling. The letters OU can be pronounced in a variety of ways in English, but in this particular word, we pronounce them as ow. Ow, the same sound that you would make if you hurt yourself. Ouch! Ow! Amount. Amount. Now this next word is a tricky one again because of the spelling. A lot of students are having problems here because they see the letters R-E-D at the end of this word. And of course, logically, you would want to say red. But this word is not pronounced with red at the end. Listen. Retired. Retired. What can you hear at the end? It's not red, is it? It's ed. Retired. Now, why do we say it like this? Well, the reason is simple. Retire is a verb, and it's a regular verb. And when we attach the ed ending to retire, we don't add any extra syllables. We simply keep the original pronunciation of the verb, retire, and add the d sound at the end. Retired. You can apply this rule to any regular verb that ends in red. And speaking of regular verbs, let's have a look at this one. How would you say it? Now, if you were paying attention, I just told you that in general, we don't add any extra syllables to regular verbs in English. There are exceptions to that rule, of course, but the verb stop is not one of them. So in here, we need to say stopped without adding any extra syllables. This can be quite hard, but you really have to try, because if you add an extra syllable here, you will say stop it. And stop it is an imperative telling somebody to stop doing something. If you want to say stopped, you definitely don't want to say it with an extra syllable because it'll completely change the meaning of what you are saying. So, even though it may be hard, say stopped. Stopped. Really try to pronounce this t at the end there. Stopped. Stopped. Okay, let's keep on going with verbs in English, but this time let's have a look at an irregular verb. How would you say this one? I think I don't have to tell you that the spelling here suggests some sort of a pronunciation catastrophe. But, in fact, those 5 letters at the end are just 2 sounds in English. Ought. Again, a long O, not O, and T. Ought. Thought. Again, really important to pronounce all those irregular verbs that finish in O-U-G-H-T as ought, not ought. Alright? So, thought. Now the next word on our list comes from this adjective. It's a very basic one, isn't it? But for a lot of students, it's a problem because they don't remember that the letters G-H are actually silent in this word. So we say high. This is going to be exactly the same for the comparative and the superlative of this word. So we'll say high, higher, highest. All right, now I've got a really tough one for you. How would you pronounce this word? Lots of students are having problems here, and of course, you've guessed it, the problem is the spelling. So how do we say it? Listen. Argue. Argue. So what you need to remember here is that the stress is on the first syllable, and then the ending is pronounced as you, in exactly the same way as you would say the ending in continue, for example. Argue, argue. And you're going to keep the same pronunciation of argue in any words that come from it. So you'll say arguing, argued, and argument. Now our next word is also tricky because of how the ending is pronounced. When you look at it, you might think that you should say mice at the end, because you see the I followed by a consonant and then an E at the end. And this generally is a rule that's worth remembering, but not in this word. In here we put the stress on the first syllable and we say promise. Promise. Promise me you'll remember that. 3 more words to go. Now this one is a really tricky one because of the stress. Students often don't know that please has a strong stress on the second syllable. Don't stress it on the first syllable because you will really confuse your listeners. Listen. Please. Please. Can you hear how short this first syllable is? In fact, if you listen to how native speakers say please, you will notice that many of them don't put any vowels between p and l. Please. Have a listen.
Right? And they ask the police, are you crazy? Are you,
We can't survive as a society without roads, infrastructure, education, police, firemen.
System, effective police, and...
All right, 2 more words to go. How would you say this one? I'm asking because a lot of students are having problems here because of the spelling. I have just given you the word amount, where the letters OU were pronounced as ow. But what happens here? Would you say ow here? I hope not. And I hope you would pronounce the letters OU here as a short a, in exactly the same way as we say up or just. So this word is pronounced as couple. Pronouncing the letters OU as a short a is not very common in English, but it's definitely worth paying attention to because many basic words contain this pronunciation. So remember, couple. And finally, just to finish our list, we've got another verb. And this one is quite tricky again. Not only do you have to pronounce the letter I as, well, an I, cly, but then you have to remember that the B at the end of this word is silent. Climb. Climb. If you build any words on this verb, they're also going to contain a silent B. So it will be a climber, climbing, or climbed in the past. Well done! Let's check how many of these words you can remember right now. I'll be showing them on the screen to you, and your task is to quickly think how you pronounce them and then listen and check. Let's do it. Law, lawyer, appear, highest, argue, promise, dangerous, amount, saw, retired, stopped, thought, police, couple, climb. Well done! Time to put these words into sentences now. I'll show you each sentence first, give you a bit of time to think about how to say it, and then you'll repeat it after me. Ready to start? Let's go! The lawyer argued about the dangerous new law. She saw the amount of risk and stopped at once. The retired climber thought of climbing the highest peak. He thought it was dangerous to ignore the law. The retired couple were arguing when the police appeared. Well done! Now, before we move on to the final part of this lesson, I wanted to let you know that if you'd really like to improve your pronunciation, you should consider joining my online learning community, Your English Upgrade. Your English Upgrade is a wonderful place if you want to improve your pronunciation and other skills, and join me learning English on one of the 2 weekly webinars that are available to any member of the community. When you become a member of Your English Upgrade, you immediately gain access to pronunciation hacks, a full pronunciation hacks course that I've designed that will help you sound better and more confident in English, and there are other courses on the platform that are just waiting for you to click on and improve your English step by step. And, of course, you can download all the PDFs and audio practice files that go with this video and any other video that I post on YouTube. The link to the community is in the description. I'll see you there. And now it's time to put all the words that we have learned today into a little story. Put your headphones on and read the story aloud with me. Ready to start? A retired lawyer and his wife, who was a police officer, decided to climb the highest mountain in their area. They stopped at the base, looked up, and saw the top covered in clouds. It was a bit dangerous, and according to law, they were forbidden to climb it at this time of the year. But the couple promised to complete it, no matter what. They thought there was a small risk. In fact, when packing their equipment, they argued a bit whether they should do it or not. In the end, they agreed that they had put a big amount of effort into their preparations and it was going to be okay. Now, as they reached the top, a beautiful view appeared in front of them. Well done! Now, if you got this far in the video, remember to hit the subscribe button to get all the latest updates for the new pronunciation videos on the channel. And if you still have energy left to practice your pronunciation, check out one of these two videos. You're going to love them. I'll see you there.